And what I'd like to know, so if someone listening today is standing at, they're about to make a life-changing decision, but they're paralyzed by fear, what would you want them to hear? Because you've been there.
It's a lot of responsibility, but to me, what really always worked is that I saw this quote somewhere and I don't know where it comes from, but it says something like jump and the universe will create the safety net. And it worked for me. I'm not like, don't try it at home if you are not sure. But, but I find that the things I've managed to do was that I had this pure wish without the expectation. So I wasn't to the universe or to life like, okay, now I'm going to get a divorce, but in 5 years I want a nice home, a husband, and a baby, or else. I was just like, okay, let's just go and see where this takes us. Or
Yeah.
with the self-publishing, same. So I think just not don't listen to feel, like be reasonable, like don't, like I didn't quit my daily job and said, okay, I'm going to move to Provence and write and voila, because it's not possible, but leave a space for your dream and for your happiness in. Okay, thank you so much for having me. My name is Fanni. I'm a teacher, storyteller, translator, and published writer as of June. I'm originally Hungarian, so that's the little accent you hear, which is normally unidentifiable, but now I'm telling you. I have been educated in Hungary and then in the UK. I did a second master's in the very useful children's literature. And for more than 10 years, I have been living in France. I arrived for love, but as stories goes, that didn't end quite as one expected. So I think one of my challenges was to have a divorce, which is, I think, a challenge many people know, sadly. Um, but it was, I think, the most difficult decision of my life, but it brought me to beautiful places, to beautiful people, and to a lot of growth. And parallel to that, I've been writing, and I think writing has been sort of the lifeline that helped me through a lot of things. And I had some struggles with that too, because originally I started writing in Hungarian, but the Hungarian market is tiny and it's not necessarily the most easy place to get by. And then I tried to break into the English speaking market, but it's huge. So it's sort of the other end. And I have had some successes which look good on paper, but it was never enough for me to feel accomplished. It's really like the glass ceiling we always talk about, that I saw that I'm close, but never close enough. And I've been growing frustrated. And then I decided that, you know what, I will just self-publish and see what happens. And I would lie if I told you that it's easy and now I'm a bestseller. But at least I have a pretty book to show people, and I have had some good returns, and it's just the beginning of the journey. So I'm very excited.
No, absolutely. I mean, you've got yourself published, or you published yourself, but at the end of the day, you've got a book out, so that's saying something. But let's start at the beginning. So did you move to France because of love? Is that what you said?
Yes, exactly. I would
So
have
then,
never. I love France, but it's a slow burn love story. It's not a meet cute. So
yeah. So how did you discover the strength within yourself to leave the marriage, that you just knew something wasn't right and you all alone in this new country? Let's start there.
okay, well, it was difficult. It was during COVID times, so I think the context paradoxically led itself to self-reflection. And I'm a very happy-go-lucky person, and I started to feel that I'm just not happy. Again, as I wrote to you, my marriage was okay. He's a very nice person. There was nothing wrong on paper, But I really had this feeling that, okay, I've turned 30 and I will never be happy again. Like happiness is gone, it's in the past. And it's very scary because hopefully we still have like 50, 60 years to live after that. So I was like, if I need to spend that without happiness, that's a bit long. And but again, luckily and unluckily, my parents are divorced, and I saw that my mom should have left way earlier than she did, and that was not a good marriage. So it took time because I had this feeling that something is wrong, but even to admit to yourself, it's a very long process, especially that, again, I loved my husband, my ex-husband. I had no qualms with him. So I think it's much more difficult to make the decision when it's like that than when something is clearly wrong or you are angry. But I didn't want to wait for that because I know that a lot of people stay in relationships which are not satisfying, which are not good, and slowly, hate, and you get upset. And he didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's go, and something will happen.
Yeah. And no looking back. You're happy with your decision.
I am very happy. I have a loving husband now who is very cute. We are having
Ah,
a baby in 2 weeks.
Oh, congratulations. Very good.
yes, you're newly married now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there is rebuilding and plot twists, but I told myself that I would get a divorce even if I stay alone for the rest of my life. I was
Yeah.
like, if he finds someone else, which he did, then already one of us is happy. And I spent the 3-4 years after the divorce with dating very complicated people. So but in the end you have to have faith and you arrive to the right place sooner or later.
And you stayed in France?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult decision, but so at that point I had been here for 6-7 years. So I created my life. At that point, Hungary wasn't necessarily a very welcoming place economically or with the political climate. It just didn't match with me. And the thing is, I quit my life there. So, I wouldn't have gone back to the place I had quit. I would have had to rebuild everything again. And
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
And
think
looking back now, do you feel that chapter of your life was trying to teach you something?
Oh, it taught me a lot of things. It was really very, very difficult, but I think I am at the place where I am now because I went through it. Because before that, I was always, okay, it's going to be the relationship part, but I always had a crush. I always had some guy I put above myself, like, oh, how great he is. And then during my 20s, I was in a relationship all alone, and I never had the time to say, okay, Fanny, you are alone. You are a whole person. You are worthy on your own. I don't think I was like relationship dependent because I'm very good on my own, but I think my self worth always depended on one kind of another, like a relationship with somebody else.
Mm. Yeah.
And now I think I managed to become like a whole independent person, and that's what allows me to be happy in my relationship.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, what lessons have you brought across from your previous relationship into your new one that allowed this new relationship to be a better, healthier, stronger one?
I think one of the things I have learned through my divorce and also dating not the nicest people on earth is that you have to really respect yourself first. And just because you say, okay, I can't do this, like to have boundaries, it's not a disrespect towards the other person. If you know what you want and what you don't want, you can just communicate it. Because I think my problem was also that I wasn't very good in telling my ex-husband what I wanted or what I needed, and he was not a mind reader.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's important to know what you want actually. And yeah, I think it's important to be with someone because you really appreciate that person, because you are compatible, not because, oh, if I'm alone, but no one. No, everybody's a whole person on their own, and if you get together with someone who complements you, you can be stronger.
Absolutely. And I think that's, it does take a lot of courage because, like you said, everything was relatively good. Nothing was actually wrong or bad. So,
Yes.
was there like, I know you said COVID was a sort of self-reflective time, but was
Mhm.
there a pivotal moment when you said, okay, something's got to shift. I'm just not, surviving and I've got to become someone new.
What I remember, it was a very hectic period, so most of it I have forgotten, but there is this incident which lives in my head where it's going to be strange, but I hit my head and my ex-husband came and he was like caressing my head and I was like, "Oh, don't touch me." And then I felt like, okay, this is exactly what I want to avoid. He came to me with a good intention. He's super nice, and I'm being mean to him, or at least in my head, I was mean to him. And I was like, okay, I've seen relationships like that there is resentment and you don't really like each other anymore. And I was like, no, nobody deserves that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was
That's
tough.
a pivotal moment for you that changed it all. So was it then from that experience that you began writing and self-publishing, or I know you've been writing for
Yes.
before that, but that was the
I think writing helped me through this period. It's actually, I've been trying to finish a book since 2006. I mean, I had been trying because now I finished 4 manuscripts, but I always had this. I somehow never managed to finish. I have like 10 manuscripts in various stages of completion on my computer, but I just never had the strength to go through with it. And with COVID and everything, I worked really hard, and mm, I didn't finish, but I managed to write through the bulk of 2 novels. So I was very active in my writing. I think it's just because I needed to go somewhere from my life. So it,
yeah.
it was really my escape and my happy place, because I write very soft stories where there is drama, but things go well. Because I think we have way too much darkness and stress in our lives, so we need
Yes.
calm places.
Yeah.
And that, I think, if I hadn't had that, I would have gone mad for sure. And then this experience fueled some of my stories.
Mhm.
It has a little bit in the story I published in June. And if all goes well, I'm going to publish one next spring, which is about starting again after divorce or after a breakup. And that has a lot of my sort of wanderings and trying to find myself.
Yeah, amazing. So the book that you're referring to that is published, is that one called August?
Yes.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about that.
I have it with me because I'm
Very good.
ready for promotion. So
Yes.
it's the fourth manuscript I have completed, and I don't think it's my very best, but it takes place in Normandy, in France.
Mhm.
And so I thought that the big challenge for me in publishing and writing is that I'm Hungarian, writing in English in France, and I don't know how much you know about France, and I love them deeply, but English is not their best friend. I'm an
Yeah.
English teacher. I know. It's a bit complicated, so I thought that if at least it took place in Normandy, which has connections with the English speaking world, it
Mhm.
would give me some leverage for marketing. And so this is a story which is somewhat based on my experience, but of course it's also fiction. It's about a 17-year-old girl who is sent to Normandy to practice French because one of her parents is French.
Mhm.
And so also because she just broke up with her boyfriend, the very first one. And we know that when we are teenagers and it's the first breakup, it's like, oh, I'm never going to up again, and oh my God, it's the end of the world.
It's the worst.
The worst. It's over. And I've been there, so I remember feeling that at 14, that it's over now. Love is in the past, and so it's about that, and it's about how she finds new friends who come to her help, and they don't do anything dramatic or big, but sometimes just hanging out with your friends, them being there, sharing good moments, playing board games. It really helps you to heal, and that's what I also took away from my divorce and what came after that. That really my friends, new ones and old ones, were there, and I don't think I could have done it without them. So it pays a little bit of homage to all the people who contributed to my survival.
Yeah. And it sounds like the simple things that helped with the healing.
Exactly. I think sometimes we make the mistake of tending to wait something, big and with music and the whole dance show. And actually, it's really, to me, it meant so much that I had a friend. I could call her whenever I needed, or there was another couple of friends who shared that Disney Plus password with me, so I could watch Disney. So it's really
Right.
silly, but what matters is that you don't feel alone.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm curious, coming back to writing, I'm a migrant myself,
Mm.
and I'm curious on how you made the transition in the language styles of your book. Because quite often it's not necessarily just about the words themselves, there's culture and there's undertones. How did you bridge the gap from Hungarian to French to English?
It's difficult. I don't even try to write in French because they have a whole tense, like a verb form they invented for writing, which they don't use in everyday life. It's just, in books. And I'm like, okay, it's too much bother. And they are a bit pompous in the writing. I can't do that. Again, I love them, and there's a lot of good things. I just know my limits. So actually, it was very difficult because in Hungarian we tend to be a bit purple prosy, or we can use a lot of adjectives and descriptions, which in English, which I find is a very to the point language, comes off as like ugh. And that's a critique I got a lot in the beginning. So I did my second master's in England, and I did a creative writing course.
Mhm.
So I had to really push myself to see that you can't write. In the beginning, I just translated what I wanted to say in Hungarian to English,
Yeah.
and it's not the same. And of course, so I have 3 degrees in English, and I've been teaching English for 20 years, and I mostly write in English. But it doesn't mean that there are still things that sound good to me like in my head, and then when somebody reads it, they're like, in English, that's not quite how it is. But I think even in Hungarian, everybody in their mother tongue, you are not an encyclopedia, you are not the internet, so you make mistakes.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge, and really, it's with practice. And then I go through things that I wrote back in 2013 when I started out in English, and I'm like, oh, rewriting quickly.
Review and come back. I'm interested to know, have you been back to Hungary to visit family and
Yes,
friends?
it's not very far from here. So the advantage of Europe is that things are pretty close. So it's a 2-hour flight. In the
Nice.
beginning, I went back quite often, like 3 or 4 times
Mhm.
per year, because it was less expensive and I had more friends. But as it happens, a lot of people went on to live in other countries, and my family is very small to begin with. So I basically only have my mom.
Yeah.
So now it's mostly going back in the summer for 2 weeks, and then my mom comes sometimes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder because you mentioned that you made a decision to stay on with France, and personally speaking, I can relate to that story. Coming across Australia from Poland as a migrant, quite often you get homesick. Especially saw it in my parents, but more so in family
Mhm.
friends. And my parents fortunately made the decision to stay on in Australia and continue to build roots. But we did see a number of our friends and relatives go back and forth and back and forth. And, that was never the path to happiness. I think every time you go back and forth, you almost have to restart from nothing.
Yes. And yeah, you made a more difficult decision because Australia is not close to
Yes.
anything much than Europe.
And that was before the internet. But I'm curious, would you go back to live in Hungary if things changed over there or changed things for you?
Things have been changing, which is a good thing. I still think that my mindset is like, I love Hungary. I have a lot of love for the culture. Like, Hungarian literature is my first love, and I hope to bring some glimpses of it in my work, because I don't think a lot of people know a lot about it. At this point in life, I don't think I would go back to live there, especially that my husband doesn't really know Hungarian. I mean, he knows four
Your
words in
husband's
Hungarian. My husband is Tunisian, so we are a nice mix. And I know that Hungarian as well as Polish. I tried to learn Polish and abandoned. But these are languages that are beautiful but sort of needlessly complicated. And if you don't have a very good motive to stay on, I think you sort of lose motivation. And also, I'm a teacher, and even with things being complicated here, teachers are much better paid in France. Like, I would have never been a teacher in Hungary. In Hungary, I worked as an IT service desk agent in German. So, nothing to do with things I love. But if you want to
teacher are you, by the way? Are you, what sort of teacher are you?
So at the moment, I teach in higher education, and so English to students with varying motivation. And I also work with the Mairie of Paris, so the city hall, who offers classes for a reduced price in different languages. And I really love that, because these are adults who are motivated to learn, and it's so nice. It pays much less than the schools, but it brings me back my will of teaching, because I love my students, the young ones, but sometimes it's a challenge.
Yeah, much harder to teach.
So, did you mention that your current husband is Persian?
Tunisian, yes.
Tunisian, okay. Is that where the Bollywood dancing has come from?
Not at all. Has nothing to do with it. Although, funny story. So I ended up in Bollywood because my mom went to India when I was small, and it's a rare thing in the 90s. So I always had this passive connection, and then it's going to be silly personal stories. But when I was on the dating apps, I found out that Indian men apparently like me. I never dated anyone. It was Indians and Mexicans, and I was like, okay. If you like, let's try. And so I went on some dates, and they didn't end well, but it really awoke in me an interest for this culture. I've always been interested in Asia, because during my bachelor's I studied Chinese and Japanese and the Korean culture, so I've always had a lot of respect for that part of the world. But in that so in those years I didn't really learn anything about India, but I discovered it, and then I went to a Holi celebration. We have a very big Holi celebration in Paris, and I heard the song, and I saw people dancing, and I was like, okay, that's what I need to do with my life. And funnily enough, I ended up with the same dance troupe I heard dancing at that day, and that inspired me to join them.
Wow.
And my love for India and Bollywood also comes from the fact that I discovered Shah Rukh Khan, who is the most famous Indian actor, and I was like, oh my god, So he is my new crush, and I told everyone that I want somebody who looks like him. And when I saw my husband, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he has the same nose.
And then you found out he was Tunisian.
Yes, but it's fine. So,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. He had the nose, he had the hair, he has the lovely personality and the caring. So it was the nose of Shah Rukh Khan that led me to him, and I will be forever grateful for that.
Yeah. How beautiful. And you have a baby on the way as well.
Yes.
Do you know?
Very much on the way. You can't see it, but I'm like,
Yeah. Do you know yet if it's a boy or girl?
it's a girl.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
we really wanted a little girl, so she understood the assignment.
And do you have names?
Yes.
Yes.
So we had the name before the baby, so, and the girl name was we found a girl name before because we wanted something that works in Arabic, in Hungarian, in French, and everywhere. And that's not an easy place to find, and especially not for boys. So I was like, oh, should be a girl, and voila. But I'm not going to tell the name.
Yeah,
okay.
You have to tell us after.
Yeah, we'll do an episode 2. You can tell us once everything goes well.
Excellent.
Now, creatives usually tie their identity to external validation. How did you separate your values as a writer from the industry's opinions?
That's very difficult because I grew up as a people pleaser. The story of my life is that I wanted to get the approval of my father, which was not very possible. I think a lot of us knows this. I think I was very lucky that my teachers in my high school believed in me. My literature teacher, who couldn't really, contribute in the way that, she wasn't a head of a publishing house, so she couldn't publish me, which happens to some people. But I think it was super important for me that somebody whose opinion I valued highly said that what I do was good. I don't know if without it, I think I would have gone on, because for me writing is really essential. So I'm not writing for somebody to read me, although sometimes obviously we all want that, but it's really just my way of dealing with the world. I think I saved hundreds of euros on therapy by working through much of the stuff in writing. I did go to therapy after, but I think it was much shorter than it could have been had I not tried to go through these things on my own. And I'm not gonna lie, it's frustrating, but I think at one point, if you know yourself enough and really believe in your values, you will know that in any industry, in any job, sometimes it's not about you, it's what they want, what's trendy, what's who. I also think that sadly you need to know the right person sometimes, not necessarily in the sense that you are absolutely useless, and then if your uncle is the head of the publishing house, he is going to publish you, but in the sense that sometimes you come across someone who believes in you and it can take you to places. So it's difficult, but I think luckily, and I'm very happy with all the rejections, it really made me stronger, in the sense that sometimes I was really the only person who believed in me.
Yeah.
And I hope I can hang on to this strength until the end, because I think some people, being successful has as many frustrations and as many traps as being not there yet. And I know that a lot of writers or artists crumble under the weight of expectations.
Yeah.
So I told myself that I think if I write well with very high expectations to myself, and I really write what I want, even when nobody's looking, I can do that when everybody's looking.
Yeah.
Hopefully. We are not there yet, but one day we will do that.
Yeah, writing can be so healing. Like I also do it, but just more like private journaling. But I do find it such a healing process. And so you tried to get published, and then what, after so many hitbacks, you decided to go out there and self-publish. What was
Yes.
that process like? Did you know how to do it? Did you have to figure that whole thing out? And
It was quite a long road because in the beginning, so when I was mostly in the Hungarian market, I came across some self-published people and I didn't necessarily find their work very polished. So, the disadvantage of self-publishing is that anybody can self-publish. There is no gatekeeper, which is the greatest advantage and disadvantage at the same time. So I was like, no, and it's not nice, and now I regret it. But no, I'm better than that. I deserve to be taken up by a publishing house, but it never happened. So
yet,
I was like, okay, let's try in English. And in English, it was difficult for different reasons. For example, in Hungary, you don't have the whole agent system because it's so tiny that it doesn't have the place for one more layer of people in publishing. But the English-speaking publishing industry is so huge that you can't just write to publishing houses like I can't write to Bloomsbury and Penguin like, hey, I'm here, read me. They don't have the time. And so I was really actively trying to find an agent. I have this huge book. I'm not going to get it out, but it's called like Writers and Artists Yearbook. I went through it, like I highlighted the agents who are relevant. I contacted them. I had an Excel file. So really, I put in a lot of work with varying results again. And then I had in 2023, I had a call with an agent who liked my second manuscript. And really, I was over the moon because it's very already, if somebody likes your manuscript, you're like, wow. And she wanted to read the whole thing, which is like a very big step.
yeah,
Especially that again, English is not my mother tongue. So can you imagine that it's really like double time the work? But after months, she came back to me saying that it's nice, but in the end, I'm not sure the voice is interesting enough for the whole book. And anyway, I don't know how to market it. So you will find someone else. And it really broke me because I think it's the same, like, looking for an agent is like going through a dating app and looking at people and nobody matches you back. Fine. But then imagine that you go on a very good date with a lovely person and you're like, I think it went well. And then the person says, meh, bye. It hurts much more than not matching with anyone.
yeah,
So that really put me in a not very good place writing wise, because I said that what's the point, even if I love writing and everything, at one point you would want somebody else to tell you that you are great and you're doing well. And luckily at that point I found dancing and I found like sports and other stuff, because I think creativity is important for ourselves, like as human beings, not necessarily to get any kind of recognition from anybody else, but it helps us to have a happier life. So I kept on that. And then in 2024, I was like, you know what, let's play around with the story. And it sort of brought me back to the happiness of writing without all the expectations. And I remember I was in a car and I decided, you know what, 2026, we are going to have a baby and we are going to have a book.
Nice.
I'm
Very good.
very much on the keeping myself to the agenda, and then I started thinking about it, and I have the impression that in life, at least in my life, when I'm going to the right direction, things fall into place to show me that it's going the good way. So I found an Instagram ad for a training or like a course, which was also financed by my work or by it's a complicated French thing, but anyway, it was expensive, but I didn't need to pay anything because I had this account that you can use to pay for education, and it was about how to self-publish. And I don't think it didn't teach me everything, but it helped me to be formally focused on this thing, because it's not at all it's easy on paper, but there are a lot of things that are complicated, and I've been figuring it out, and I made mistakes, stupid ones, but it will be better for the next one. And it was also a lot of decisions, because what you need is time or money or both, because you can put easily thousands of dollars in your book, and I don't have that. And I think people have such high expectations for independent authors, but you have to know that it's a lot of money, and realistically you are not going to make back that on the first book. So
Yeah.
I made it a point of honor to have like a very good cover designer, a human one, so it's not AI designed. But I understand people who don't have money and do that. It's really, for me, it's not a judgment.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people have this expectation that it has to be like professionally designed, and I know because I have bought a lot of not great books, but the cover was lovely, so I was like, I need this.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will work for mine. And then I had beta readers and editors who were very nice and came in on a reduced price. So these were people I knew. But it was a lot of work, and luckily this year I didn't have a lot of classes because French school think that English is not important. So my hours were cut. And in the beginning I was feeling very bad, because I love working, I love teaching, and it again comes back to the point that we said that sometimes the industry or your job doesn't appreciate you, and it's not your fault. Like, I know for a fact that my students like me, and I do help them getting better at English. So I know it's not a value judgment on me. It's just that budgeting is difficult. So, and English is not a core subject. So they will be like, let's forget about it. But in the end, it's a good thing, because it really allowed me to focus on finishing the book, to figuring out how things work. I have a lot of medical appointments with the pregnancy. So, in the end, again, life was nice to me.
Yes.
But it was very intense. By the end, I love this book, but by the end, I was like, I can't look at it anymore.
Yeah. I can't agree more. Like when you said that when life agrees with you, it's in flow, and many things will fall in your way to make it happen for you. So I definitely agree with that statement, and obviously that's what's been happening for you. So you now are working on your second book. I know you've published August, and the second book is called.
It has a very long name, but I love it, so I'm not going to change it. It's called
Yes.
Macchiatos, My Friends, and Other Things I Can't Live Without.
I love it.
I call it macchiatos,
Yeah.
but it's a mouthful. Actually,
Yeah.
I got the title from, sometimes on Pinterest you get this, put in the, like, what's the first letter of your first name and your birth date, and that's going to be your YA novel. And so it was originally Macchiatos, Vampires, and Other Signs of the End of the World. That was sort of the prompt. And I was like, oh, I love coffee. Let's write that.
Yes.
But then I changed it, but the title remained excessively long.
That's okay. I like it too. It's catchy. So what's this book about?
So this book, I didn't want to publish it first because it was the first book I managed to finish. So it's really like my firstborn, and I spent the beginning of my summer editing it, and it shows like really it was too long. So I spent time cutting. Oh my God, it was long, but now it's done. I'm waiting for editors and proofreaders and beta readers to make some suggestions. But so this is about a girl who has difficult family situation. By the way, her family is Polish, because I
Right.
think we don't have enough sort of Middle and Eastern European characters.
Poland's a good source.
Yes, but I find that this part of the world is still a little bit invisible. And I think we have a lot of challenges which are a bit particular to our culture, the Eastern Bloc.
Yes.
And I could write a whole book on it, maybe one day.
You should.
I make it a point of honor to remind the world that we do exist.
Oh yeah.
And so she arrives to London and she has nobody, and she ends up in an indie cafe shop where the owner just takes her in and she starts working there, and then she makes friends with her co-workers, but she has anxiety. And i I have anxiety, but I think I know that I'm in a good place in my life. It's much milder. But when you come from an environment which could have been like a bit verbally abusive or emotionally, you become a people pleaser who always like, oh my god, is she angry with me, what's happening? So she's a bit annoying in the beginning, but it's a story of growth, that with people being very kind to her and supportive. It's again a lot about friendship. There is romance, but to me there is always, if you have romance you also need to have friendship, because if you want your couple to give you all the love, I don't think it's very healthy. That will put a lot of strain on the other person. So it's good to have love from family and friends, and then you can be happy in your couple. So I have a lot of good friends in there, and so it's the story of how she falls for the handsome, very charming bad boy, and then maybe she figures out that if you are the bookish girl who is a bit shy, in all the books, these kind of girls always end up with the bad boy who is secretly very nice, and it's just well an act.
Twilight. Yeah.
And I'm not so sure. Like bad boys are good, but realistically, sometimes you need somebody who is a bit more in your mindset.
Yeah.
But it's a growth.
Yes.
So it's a lot about her discovering herself, healing from all the trauma, and they play a lot of board games and they eat and spend just lovely moments together.
Beautiful. It sounds like the sort of book I'd love to read, actually. That's
And I will tell you when
You've nailed it.
yeah.
No, I think I have some darker stories, but in the beginning I try to publish the ones who are sort of healing and feel good. And they always have drama, but I think that really, to me, with what all is going on in the world, and we have internet, so we know every bad thing that's happening everywhere. I think sometimes you need quiet things, that there is family drama, but then your friend takes you out for coffee and you feel better.
Yes.
And that's kind of soothing places I try to create.
Yeah. It's nice. It's like a little escape. And even like, again, talking about the simple things like cups of coffees or board games and
Exactly.
things like that there's something so, I don't know, I get absorbed into books like that myself, because I just find them like a little dreamy light. It's nice.
I
That's
think
really
we need
good.
it.
I'm curious about success. How does success look like today versus how you may have defined it 10 years ago?
That's a lovely question. I think for me, success has always been sort of the same. That I once said that I prefer to be loved by few than liked by many. In which sense that, if I had a Facebook post with 50,000 likes, but nobody really cares, that's not an indicator of success to me. What I really would like is little moments when somebody comes to me and says that, I fell down and then I thought about this scene in your book and it made me feel less lonely. Because I think a lot about how in my life, sometimes in difficult moments you listen to a song and you feel less alone. So, for example, a lot of this book has Taylor Swift vibes from her Folklore and Evermore albums, because those were the ones that came out in COVID during the time where when I was contemplating divorcing. And I know that these albums gave me a lot of strength and they were like a silent friend. And probably Taylor Swift will never know that she walked by my side at that point. But or maybe she will when I'm going to get the Netflix deal. But but I think it's important that art can make life easier. And I sort of have to accept that some of these moments I will never know, but I choose to live with the hope that I can make a meaningful difference. Of course, this is beautiful, but on the practical side, I would want to make some income from it. I wouldn't I am realistic, so I don't want to. I mean, if I can buy a lovely secondary home in Bretagne and go to the sea to write,
Yeah.
that would be lovely. But if it can just be a steady income because a baby is very expensive, huh? So,
Yes, we have two. We know. Yeah.
so it helps. I'm not going to say otherwise, but I think what I really want is human connections. And
Yes.
so now I'm in a frustrating period when I try to reach out to bookshops and bloggers to say, hey, can you stock my book or talk about my book? And a lot of people don't come back to me. So thank you so much for coming back to me. You are one of the first ones.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. We wanna-
so
You've
so
got a beautiful story. Definitely worth sharing.
yeah.
thank you. And
Yeah.
but I had a lovely book launch in the yoga club where I do my prenatal yoga. And what I discovered also is that sometimes, people who you think are close to you and who would support you are supportive in their words, but not in their actions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it used to break my heart. Now I think I have come to a place where I have much more realistic expectations with people. And I'm like, if they come, they come. If they don't come, they don't come. Of course, it's not that easy, but I try to think of that. But for example, in my yoga studio, people have been super supportive, and they are not even my old friends. And I had a lovely launch event with 25, 30 people, which doesn't sound a lot, but it is. And these were all people who showed up, and I had some students from classes like 2 years ago, and I had my whole Bollywood troupe there who were super nice and super supportive. So,
Yeah.
and it really felt like a great moment. So I try to have more of these, because you are a self-published writer, it's a lot about Amazon and how to trick the algorithm and how to get into bestseller lists. And I've been reading up on that, and I've been trying to put things into place, but it's so impersonal to me, like let an algorithm suggest you to the right person. So I try to focus on like human connections in person.
And I'm sorry, I just really wanted to quickly ask the question. I know it's a little bit off topic, but since we live in this world of AI, and you mentioned algorithms, have you thought about using AI to leverage this process of self-publishing in any way?
It's complicated because I found out, I think that AI is very controversial and it's so new that we don't know a lot about it yet. I try to use it in the creative process for like spell checking. So I haven't used it to create anything. I use other programs to spell check, but I find that you can't do enough of that. And sometimes I use it for dictation because I like writing while walking. And I used to type in my Gmail, and then you had these words which had 100,000 consonants and two vowels, and half of it was in Hungarian. And then I walked into a lamppost. So, I say, just write down what I say, don't add any weird
Yeah.
stuff. And I think that helps. So I think and it might be controversial, and I'm afraid of being cancelled. But, I think you can use it in small ways if it's a tool and if it helps your creative process.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't overuse it, and you shouldn't say that you wrote this book, and
No.
anyway, like you see the AI covers right away.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
so
And I think like you said, using it as an assistant rather than to do anything big.
It could be good from a research tool point of view for marketing purposes and those sorts of things
for
potentially.
marketing it helps a lot. And I wish I could pay people to be my marketing assistant and stuff. But sometimes, like for keywords, and really there are some bookshops who are like, we don't want AI anywhere around you. But I find that this is really not, because it's true that it was trained in an ethical ways, and we shouldn't support that. But if it's just like, give me the keywords for this text, I find that that's not that bad. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very it's a very new topic, and again, I don't talk about it a lot because I find that it can be very dividing. But I also find that it's a bit unjust that in the writing world, especially if you are small, and I think there is a difference between me asking, "Hey, is this correct?" than some major publishing houses who have millions who say, "Okay, let's save some bucks, not paying a translator." To me, it's not the same because they have the money, they just don't have the will. I don't have a lot of money, but I commission covers, I commission character art. Even with the little I have, I try to support like real artists that I know.
Yeah.
While in the tech world, like I once went to a creative launch, which was horrible. I was supposed to be matched with people who were in the same mind space as me. It didn't happen at all, and it was expensive. And so there was a guy with a startup who was like, an AI is going to cook for you, and it's just going to be a recipe invented for you. And I'm like, yeah, but I want grandma's cooking. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or there was a girl who was experimenting with adult toys with AI, and to me it was like, let us explore ourselves. Like AI has nothing to do.
AI is everywhere.
I think I
I find that. But if you do this in the tech world, you are like cutting edge and wow, and if you touch it in the creative space, you are the worst. And I think there is a grain of like, I understand where they are coming from, but I think we need to have some kindness towards small people who use it in ethical ways and in like in small ways to help without like making it right your story or.
Absolutely. Yes, I couldn't agree more. And what I'd like to know, so if someone listening today is standing at, they're about to make a life-changing decision, but they're paralyzed by fear, what would you want them to hear? Because you've been there.
It's a lot of responsibility, but to me, what really always worked is that I saw this quote somewhere and I don't know where it comes from, but it says something like jump and the universe will create the safety net. And it worked for me. I'm not like, don't try it at home if you are not sure. But I find that the things I've managed to do was that I had this pure wish without the expectation. So I wasn't to the universe or to life like, okay, now I'm going to get a divorce, but in 5 years I want a nice home, a husband, and a baby, or else. I was just like, okay, let's just go and see where this takes us. Or with self-publishing, same. So I think just don't listen to feel, like be reasonable, like don't, like I didn't quit my daily job and said, okay, I'm going to move to Provence and write and voila, because it's not possible. But leave a space for your dream and for your happiness in the confines of like common sense. Voila.
Yeah.
Beautiful advice.
I really like that. That's my breakthrough as well. Like, jump and the universe will create the safety net, but leaving space for your dreams while continuing on with what actually needs to be done.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Well, thank you, Fanny, for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and sharing your background, your life story. Obviously, it's not an easy one, and it's quite the journey from where you've been to where you are. If anyone wants to get in touch with us or with yourself in particular about your upcoming novel or your existing one, what's the best way to do so?
So I have a website which is thefunnyliteraryuniverse.com, because I had this idea that you have the Marvel Cinematic Universe where people are sort of in and out of each other's stories. I create that as well. So there are some side characters who walk around. So, but it's funny with an I, not with a Y, like everywhere else.
I have daughters there.
Yeah, I'm special. That's what makes me stand out, and that's what avoids me the stupid jokes, because we all know that in English, Fanny, certain parts of the female body, and I'm different. And that's also my Instagram handle. So Fanni Literary Universe. They can find me there, and I'm very happy to connect with people.
Beautiful. You have to send us the link, and we'll put it all there, as well
I
as your
will do
books that you've got and the one that's coming up.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely. And really, just for the listeners in France, it's 5 o'clock now. And my hosts were so lovely that I didn't even finish my coffee and I was fully awake. So
beautiful. I'm glad we could motivate you. And again, all the very best with your upcoming book and the baby and everything else in life.
Thank you so much. It was absolutely lovely. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
One, two.